Welcome to Hometown Culture, your weekly Orlando Magic podcast, where your host Seth will be unpacking the news every week. Welcome to Hometown Culture. My name is Seth, your host. Today we're going to be talking about the end of season interviews done by Jamahl Mosley, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Jeff Weltman. And we're also going to be talking about some of the news of the NBA playoffs as we are currently on Thursday, going into the playoffs here on the 16th of May. So we're going to talk about a lot about this this year's playoffs, and we're also going to dive really into the joy of this season and going back and looking forward towards the off season this season for the Orlando Magic. Super excited. Let's get right into it. All right, so before we get into it, this episode is a day late. Unfortunately, my audio was corrupted, the audio that I recorded yesterday, so I have to re-record this episode, but we're going to dive into the same points. Hopefully, it is a blessing in disguise for sure. But let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the Jamahl Mosley interview, end-of-season interview. He talked a lot about how proud he was of this team going into the offseason and coming out of this 7-game series against the Cavs, and he just wanted to acknowledge the accomplishment that this team has made, making the playoffs, making it a 7-game series with a higher seed, and through the ups and downs of the season, staying focused, staying locked in together, staying together, put together as a team, the high defensive quality with a top 5 defense in the league this season, and learning how to win. He dove very much into all of that. And it was really cool to see how proud Jamahl Mosley is of this team, of this group. And we also got to see him talk about the fans, the support of the fans. He mentioned how much the culture was built this season, and through all of the highs and lows of this season, from the start of the season all the way through the end, this fan base was here with the team, and he recognized how greatly important this fan base was. And it also showed how he can see the group potentially going forward, putting more emphasis on how important the regular season is, because you saw in the playoffs, in the playoffs and in the regular season as well, just how important home court advantage was, where we had a much better home record than we did on the road, and we only won our home games in that 7-game series against the Cavs. So something to definitely look forward to. I think the players also talked about how important it is to win those random games on random Monday nights, random Tuesday nights, and come out victorious, because it really matters towards the end of the season, looking at the postseason as we go forward here. But Jamahl Mosley talking about a ton of growth in this team, and how it just makes the loss sting that much harder against the Cavs. And I 100% agree. I think that this group knew, I think that the fans knew that this team was capable to win this series, and to fall short of that stings a lot, and it hurts a lot. But I think that falling short can be a blessing, because you now have a team that is eager to improve, because we know what we can do, and we know that we can do better and perform even better than we did, but also recognizing how some of the faults may have caused us to not get to where our expectations in this playoff was, and we exceeded expectations this season. There's no world where this season is an unsuccessful season. This is one of my favorite Orlando Magic teams I've watched live, and it has been a joy to watch, a joy to be with this team. But at the end of the day, there are changes that need to be made. This is a business after all, and there's always going to be improvements that you can make to this team. And it'll be interesting to see how the Orlando Magic and the front office and the coaching staff go forward with that. But as for going forward with those changes, recognizing how special this group was, recognizing how together this group was, which is unique compared to other organizations and other teams, it will be tough to move past this season and bringing in new personnel and letting go of others. But I think that Jamahl Mosley did an excellent job expressing how he wants to embrace the change and just embrace whatever happens going forward and learning and adapting. And I think that he also looked towards the fact of whenever we bring in some talent, whether it's through free agency or through a trade, to bring in the right person who's going to be good for the team both on the court and off the court. Because a lot of this team this season happened off the court. A lot of this team happened while they were doing off court things that, like Cole Anthony's party. I think they all went bowling that one time or whatever it may be. This team was together. This team was a unit. It was like a family. And so to bring that in and have that team influencing the players that we bring in going forward, I think that is a huge thing. And I it's great to see how Jamahl Mosley has recognized that as well. And we also had him talking about the immense evaluation process in order to make the changes and to develop talent and in themselves. And I think that this is something that both players and coaches and the front office are going to have to do, evaluating the team to see what changes may need to be made to fix some of our main weaknesses, such as our shooting and such as our half-court offense, And I think that he did a great job recognizing how he can also improve, as a coach. And it was cool to see how he talked, because he talked about reflecting himself personally, how he can bring the best out of his coaching staff, how he can bring the best out of his team and his players, and also being open and accepting to outside criticism that may come as well through that, and listening to second ears or secondary voices that are looking from the outside in, and seeing what other people may suggest for him to be able to improve, and I think that is huge in the development of a coach. He was second in Coach of the Year voting this year, but he recognizes that this is not where his peak is, and I think that is huge. And I think that going forward, we can see how much better of a coach Jamahl Mosley can develop into, and it makes me excited for the next few seasons here under Jamahl Mosley to see how he progresses as a coach and how much he can elevate this team through his coaching. And the last thing that I will cover from his interview, we also had him talking about this loss being a step in the process. And I think that is a huge thing to remember. I think Franz will eventually need to remember that as well. He was, as these interviews happened like a week and a half ago at this point, but there is definitely a sting to this loss, and it sucks. But recognizing that we have almost nowhere to go but up from here, and we are on the rise, and the league is recognizing that. I think free agents may be recognizing that, and I think that it is very important to remember that as a team, this is a step in the process. It doesn't happen all overnight. I think we're no strangers to that. We've been through this rebuild over 3 seasons, from 2021 when he blew it up with Vooch and Aaron Gordon and Fournier, but I think that going forward, we can recognize like, hey, this was a step in the process, and how much we can learn from this, how much we can learn from this loss, how much we can learn from this season, how much we can learn from both our ups and our downs, especially our downs, but also learning from how we handle our ups, and maybe putting more emphasis on more long-term goals rather than like the short term, because I think that a lot of fans can get caught up in the moment, and I hope that I don't think the players necessarily were ever caught up in the moment, but I think a lot of fans were definitely caught up in the moment down in like December during that 9-game win streak. I think a lot of people started overestimating this team, over being excited too much by the success that we were seeing, and I think that to recognize the ups and downs of the season and not to overreact to certain things that may happen throughout the season, and being able to bounce back from ups and downs, and also being able to maintain highs throughout the season and whatnot, and all the work that goes into that. I think it's vitally important. I think going and learning about how you can handle and tackle these individual weeks throughout the regular season, and how important all these individual games are, and then the self-development and the team aspect, I think matters so much as well. I think that it'll be a great thing to do, and hopefully we can continue to develop as a team. I like the outlook that Jamahl Mosley has for this team, for this future in the next few years, and it's very great to see and witness and hear for sure. And that's all I have to say about the Jamahl Mosley interview. It was a great interview to listen to. Next, we're going to get into the Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero interviews as well. All right, moving on to the player interviews. We had Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero's interviews here, and man, it was pretty rough to watch Franz's interview. I'm not gonna lie, you could definitely still see the frustration and the pain of the loss of Game 7, and it was tough to see, because you see a guy who was trying his hardest. He wants to win, and a guy who has had his ups and downs throughout the season for sure, and is very frustrated with himself. And like he said in his post-game interview, feels like he let his team down, and it's rough, and you can only hope that he can bounce back from this. You can only hope that he can use this as motivation to be better next season, and to really surpass all expectations that people have of him next season, and just go crazy, and like you heard him talk about that a little bit, hopefully using the motivation positively, and we'll see in time whether or not he does that. But he also recognized the importance of rest, taking a disconnect from the game real quick before the Olympics, of course, and then going into next season as well. And I hope that for all the players, taking this like break from the game allows them to replenish their minds and get back and get ready and centered in mind and in body. And we'll see how this team can respond next season, and how Franz can respond next season. Like I said, I think he has the potential to grow tremendously from this loss, from this performance, but time will tell. Only time will tell, and we'll see what Franz is capable of next season. But I fully expect him to take advantage of the off season and really lock in and train and develop his game here. And he also called out how cool it was to play with the fans this year, having this entire city behind them. And I mean, it just goes to show how great this fan base was this season. We had multiple times in the last few years where we would have games that were overrun by the road team fans, and this season was not that case. We had multiple games against really high density fan bases here in Orlando, like New York, like Boston, and we had the advantage. We made sure that home court felt like home court, and I think that is a huge confidence booster. You have people like Jalen Suggs quoting and loving to play at home, and it is just amazing. I think that having the fans behind you is really something that can influence a player to really fall in love with the city and want to stay here long term. And we'll see what happens with Franz Wagner, of course, but it is definitely something that is cool that to see him point out as well in his interview. And then we also had him talking about how much fun he had playing with Paolo Banchero this season, how great of a teammate Paolo is, how great of a character Paolo is. And it is just amazing to see when you have a guy leading your team that is respected and is loved by his teammates. It makes it so much easier, so much better to succeed as a team, because everyone's locked in for each other. And I think that was something that was unique to this team this season. Like Franz said, like he was told, the connectiveness that this team has was something that was really something that is not common and is not common in the NBA, and something that should be cherished. And I hope that it can continue to go into the team in the future as we move forward. But we shall see how the team develops. But I think that having this culture that was developed this season and last season, and allowing for this team to really grow together as a unit, and together as teammates, and with the coaching and these relationships, I think that it's deep, and I think that it will influence whoever comes in, regardless of who they are, for sure. And we also have him talking about the reflectedness, of course, and I think that he was talking about how it's difficult to reflect on the accomplishments of the season with Game 7's loss and performance weighing so heavily so soon. And so I hope that eventually we'll see Franz be able to recognize and pull out the key moments from the season that were successful, and also how important this season is, because this season's such an important season for the Orlando Magic and this young core. And from the regular season to the postseason, all of it is super, super important to everyone's development and growth. And I think recognizing that, and recognizing how much you accomplished in this season as well, will be super helpful for confidence and just going forward, and understanding that we can do more, and there's more to learn and grow in, to where we can be able to succeed and do more than we've ever done before, And so it was definitely something to look at and look forward to. And we also had Paolo Banchero's interview, which we'll go into right here. We had Paolo's understanding of this team never wavering throughout the season. We had this team really staying focused throughout the entire year, and Paolo pointed that out. Paolo pointed how locked in everyone is throughout the entire season, and not getting too caught up in the moments of the highs of the season and the lows of the season, and recognizing the steadiness that can be found, But I think that, and I think that's really special with a young group like this, to have something like that, to have something where everyone's locked in and focused on each game and not dwelling on too many things. I think that is super vital and super important. I think that the support that this team gives each other to be able to do that is super important, which is why I think a player like Franz is going to be able to bounce back, because this team supports each other and work towards something greater than themselves. And I think that that's going to be super key to everyone's growth and development going forward. And I think that's something that was super key to this team's success this season and going forward, and their success in the following seasons that we may experience. And we had him also talking about wanting more from the playoffs, wanting more, wanting to be on the other side of those winner go home games. And I think that it is exciting to see how intoxicating the playoffs is once you get there. Like you see it. And when you really have a chance, because we made it to the playoffs in 2019, we made it to the playoffs in 2020, but when you really have a shot in the playoffs, and you feel like you have that shot to go forward, which I don't think we've had in over a decade as a Magic fan base, right? You have new fans who weren't fans back then. I wasn't as big of a Magic fan as I am now back then when we were in the playoffs in 2011 and whatnot. And so to have a team that is so good and good enough to potentially be winners in this playoffs is super huge. And I think that it makes it intoxicating to get that feeling back, to get that feeling of we can win this game, we can go on to the second round here. I think that is huge, and I'm very excited to see what the future has for this team. And we also had him talking about the importance of regular season games, the importance of home court advantage in the playoffs, and clinching a top 4 spot through the regular season, how much more you'll be thinking about the postseason in the back of your mind. And I think now we've made the postseason. I agree. I think going forward, we're going to be able to see the team start to think more in the back of their head, like have more of a acknowledgement of the fact that the postseason's around the corner here, and that every game matters. And that was something I don't think that we necessarily may have had this season, because we were trying to prove ourselves to get to the postseason in general, But I think that understanding the importance of a top 4 slot going into the playoffs, I think, is very important. I'm glad that Paolo, our leader, is going to be having that mindset and leading this team towards that mindset here too. I also like how Paolo still voiced his trust in the front office here. Going forward, going into the summer, there's probably going to be some changes. I would be surprised if there was no changes here. And Paolo didn't speak about any changes that he specifically wanted. And I think that's very wise of him. He is in his second season here. But I think that him displaying how much trust he has in this front office to be able to go in and be able to trust in, he's trusted in what the front office has done to this point. And he voiced that. He trusts, like, to this point, the front office is what brought this team together. And this team made it this far. And so he's trusting in what the front office will do in the future. And I think that until the front office breaks that trust, we can trust in the front office to make the good decisions here. And I mean, yeah, like Paolo said, the front office brought this group together. This group did great things this season, and we can only hope that whatever moves that they make going forward, whether that's through the draft, through free agency, through trades in the offseason, we will see this team still have this front office still make moves that are good for the team and good for the city. And I think that will be great to see and to wait and observe what the decisions of the front office will be. And this is the start of something special. Paolo made clear that this is the start of something special. This fan base, this culture, this team, this is the start of something special this season. And I think that it'll be very exciting to see what this team becomes going forward, going into the future. And I'm really stoked about it. I'm really excited about it. And we shall see what this team can become. But I think that I agree with Paolo. I think this is the start of something special. We have seen the blossomings of some stardom here, and we've seen the fruits of some of these players' labor, and we are seeing some of these players come back and come to life. You saw Jalen Suggs come in, and he is proven he deserves a contract in the league, and proven his worth, and proven how important and vitally he is as a role player. We've seen Jonathan Isaac come in and have a pretty healthy season, all things considered, and be able to go forward and display how great he has been on defense and be able to be a key factor in many of our wins this season. We have seen Paolo Banchero blossom into an all-star this season. We have seen Franz Wagner, through his ups and downs, show flashes of potential all-stardom. And we've also seen a great bench performance, a great defense all around, and many players stepping up in different moments, and just the trust in this team. And it's something special, man. And it's going to be exciting to see. It's going to be exciting to watch and witness going forward. And I have nothing but hope for this team going forward. And yeah, Paolo is looking to take a break from basketball as well, like I think all players should, and get back to the basics. He said, going back and getting right in mind and in body, being around family, being around friends, and I think this offseason being an offseason where he doesn't have to be living out of a suitcase, can really lock into developing himself as a talent. And I think that will be great for him, and I can't wait to see how he comes into next season and in the seasons following. Now going into the Jeff Weltman interview, we have a pretty interesting interview, to say the least. This leader here. We see Jeff Weltman talking about the success of this group, how impressed he was with this and impressed and proud of this group's character, this group's performance, and the success that they brought this team and this organization. I think that he rightfully shouted out the staff of this organization. I think there was like 73 staff in total that he could have given individual name shout outs to. But I think highlighting the importance of every single person in this team and in this organization, having the staff being able to set up the facilities to be able to help the coaching staff do their job so that they can help the players do their job, and the development of the players and the staff in general, and how the character and how each of these people are good people, and how they help one another out and how they're there for one another and all these different things. And it's really cool to see, and really cool to see the acknowledgement from the front office onto this team. And it makes the decisions this much harder going into this offseason for sure. And I think that Weltman expressed that greatly in this interview, how hard and difficult the decisions will be going into the Franz and Jalen Suggs extension talks, going into who to keep, who to let go of, going into like who to bring in, and also like through the draft and through free agency, and just this entire offseason and how it would affect the team and their trajectory. Very, very difficult offseason, but the main thing is trying to figure out how can we get better. And that I think that was a quote from his interview. Trying to figure out how we can get better as a team, as an organization, and how we can use the playoffs as a blueprint and to seeing what the weaknesses that were able to be highlighted that can probably be highlighted by other teams as well. Because there are some things that are going to be matchup based in the playoffs, and you can't necessarily form your entire team around that, right? But there are certain things like shooting, like half-court offenses, where you have these things that were exploitable in the playoffs that are going to be exploitable in many other different situations that need to be fixed. And so how to fix those, you can look towards the draft, you can look towards internal development like we had this past season. You can also look toward bringing in free agents or trades, and it's just going to be difficult to figure out what to do, what will be best for this team. And of course, wanting to make sure any decisions, any acquisitions are done that are not jeopardizing the team's DNA, the team's culture that we've established by this point. And I think that's a vital thing. I think we talked about that with Jamahl Mosley. I think that is good that Jamahl Mosley and Jeff Weltman are in the same mind about that. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to make the decisions needed. We have a lot of cap space, and that cap space can be used in a multitude of ways. And we have two players that are up for potentially a lot of money. I mean, Jalen Suggs, I think, has proved this season a lot of value that he has in this league and for this team. And Franz has also proven throughout the years he has a lot of value, and maybe even potentially max contract value, And whether or not Franz gets a max contract or not, that is not up for me to decide or to say. I will say it's not completely black and white. Some people will say that Franz 100% is going to deserve a max contract, and I will not sit here and agree with that, because I think that given what we've seen of Franz, especially this season, and his shooting woes and the ups and downs of the season throughout, I think that he has shown flashes that are max worthy, but I also believe that he has not been consistent enough to be guaranteed max money. And so we'll see if the Magic end up giving him a max, but I think that he definitely has the potential to be a max player, to be an all-star. But I'm not quite gonna sell my entire fortune to take that bet just yet, if I'm the Magic. But we'll see. Like I said, we got hard decisions coming up. We have difficult decisions coming up, and we'll see what ends up getting done. But I think that Jeff Weltman also talked a lot about internal growth. I think that he talked about growth like with Jet Howard through the G League. He talked about growth, how the only real acquisitions we made last offseason was AB, Jet Howard, and Joe Ingles, and how this team's success came from internal development. And I think that we can continue to rely on internal development. We're going to have to. Our team's young, and we have a cornerstone of Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, and Paolo Banchero. But I think that it would be foolish to completely rely on internal development, and I would be disappointed if we don't make any other acquisitions outside of this year's draft. I would be disappointed, and I think we've had a history in the past of not making huge swings in trades. Like, we'll take like a Terrence Ross, for example, but I think that we have the potential here to attract some free agents. I think Jet Weltman also talked about how the team's success was this season and the positioning of this team coming out of the season and going into the season, coming out of the season, may be changing. I think the perception of where the Orlando Magic stand in terms of the trade market and free agency market is going to be different and looked at differently. I think this is a team that can be looked at as a desirable destination for free agents. I think this is a team that can be looked at as a team that could be buying, and I think that that's a huge shift, and to be able to navigate that well is very challenging. And so I think we must take our time with this, and I'm not expecting a swing for the fences move here in our first year after coming out of the playoffs. But I think that we'll see, we have the potential to see, and I think we deserve to see some minor adjustments that can potentially help us out, and eventually through these adjustments, eventually see ourselves become, through internal development, through these minor adjustments, become a team that is dangerous and potentially a contender in this league for that Larry O'Brien trophy. And outside of that, we had Jeff Weltman talking about players wanting to be part of something bigger than themselves, and I think that was evident in this season. We saw players wanting to see the success of the team more than their own success and their own individual success. And I think that players coming in that we want to attract are players that are going to be focused on things that are not of themselves. I don't think it would be the right move to attract a player that's contract hunting. You see certain players throughout this league who are just looking for their next big bag or their last chance at a big contract. And I don't think that's going to fit the DNA of this team at all. And so we have to be careful. We have to be careful about our decisions. Like we've talked about some of the rumors in this team recently, and you look at players like Zach LaVine, who's like, yes, offensively they bring to the table a lot of what we need, but on the defensive side, are they going to fit with our team defensively? Are they going to be a liability, or are they going to give the proper effort that we need to see from them? And so it's definitely a balancing game, and so we're going to see how the front office can attack it. But Jeff Weltman, I think, seems composed. He recognizes the pressure, and he recognizes the changes in the waters here with the team's market and whatnot. But I think that him and the front office are going to do a good job and be leveled throughout the decision-making process, and we'll see the fruits of that as we go through the next few months this summer. So I'm excited, and this interview, although it doesn't answer many questions, obviously, I think it can instill confidence that this team is going to stay composed and make the right decisions. All right, finally, to wrap up, we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs as they are right now. Currently, we have one team in the conference finals, and we have two teams up 3-2 in their series. And then one team, or no, I think we have four teams up 3-2. Sorry. Three teams up 3-2. We got all three other series are going into Game 6, and the Celtics series has come to a close here in 5 against the Cavs. It's going to be very interesting to see how this series impacts the Cavs' decisions. I've heard I've seen some of the reports of and rumors of Donovan Mitchell, potentially this being Donovan Mitchell's last game as a Cavalier. Whether those rumors are true or not will be up to time to tell, but it is definitely going to be interesting to see where the Cavs go from here. you had the Cavs swing for the fences in getting Donovan Mitchell to Cleveland, and it was definitely a move that I think would have worked out well if you got the development from Darius Garland and from Evan Mobley that you wanted. Evan Mobley has not been an all-star yet, and I think that has hurt you. He's not been all-star caliber yet. I think that has hurt you majorly in these last 2 years with Donovan Mitchell. And I think that when you're looking at the struggles that a guy like Darius Garland has had in this playoffs, and you look at the struggles that a guy like Evan Mobley has had as well, and the injury to Jared Allen, all these different things, it's hard to see you attracting Donovan Mitchell back to re-sign with you guys. And it's tough. It's tough for Cavs fans. It's tough for the Cavaliers organization here. But we'll see what the Cavs do going forward, what Donovan Mitchell's decision will be, and if the Cavs may have to pivot here, or if they'll get stuck in a year where they have to kind of be in mediocrity before they can figure things out. But it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, the Celtics are taking care of business, man. I don't see a world where they are not in the finals currently in this moment. So we'll see what their matchup is. And speaking of their matchup, we have the Knicks versus Pacers, which the Knicks seem to be taking over here. I'm not even going to lie. I think that the Knicks are probably going to win this series in 6 or 7. We'll see if the Pacers can protect home court in Game 6. But, man, this series here has been very interesting, very up and down for a lot of it. You had Game 4, I believe, was a blowout win for the Pacers, and I think it made a lot of people question whether or not the Knicks are going to be able to take this series. But then Game 5 happened, and watching Game 5, watching the physicality and the pressure really get into the Pacers' heads in Game 5, it was interesting to see, and it made me realize, or recognize, I guess, that this team is still young. This team is in their first playoff appearance as well, and it's definitely tough to overcome the pressures that come with the playoffs, especially if you're playing in Madison Square Garden. And Pascal Siakam is the only one with a great amount of playoff experience. I guess you have Miles Turner. I don't know if TJ McConnell has a bunch of playoff experience either, but you have a lot of young guys on that team, and I think the pressure's getting to them, and so that's why I'm picking the Knicks to win this series, even though the Knicks are beat up and battered, which is why I don't think the Knicks are going to be able to beat the Celtics. But yeah, I think that the Pacers have made it as far as they could, and I commend the Pacers. I think that they've done a brilliant job. I have been hating the fact that they've been getting a bunch of hate for playing teams that have been injured. I mean, every team you encounter is going to be injured. Not a team the whole thing is not a team in the playoffs is not facing injuries. And regardless of how severe some of those injuries are compared to others, the fact of the matter is you have to beat who's in front of you. Injuries are a part of the game, and there's not a playoffs around where a team's not going to win because the other team was injured or whatever the reason is. You beat the team that's in front of you, and the Pacers did that. And you can't hate on the Pacers for being the team that was there for them, And so I commend the Pacers for their success in this first playoff run, and I'll be very, very intrigued to see where they go after this series is over, or after their season is over, because I mean they're not out of it yet, but I'm gonna say that I say that with confidence that they're probably gonna have this series be the way their season ends. Moving on, we got the Western Conference finals, or Western Conference semifinals, sorry, that have been going on. The Thunder and Mavs series has been entertaining to watch, except for Game 5. Game 5 was pretty dull. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I have been watching this series, and it really struck with me, like, man, Shea is really, really good at basketball. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is really, really good at basketball. And like, it just makes that Clippers trade for Paul George really bad looking back at it now, because, man, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander has developed into a beast of a player. And unfortunately, his team is down 3-2 here. against the Mavs, and the Mavs seem like they might be able to take it out in Game 6, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not going to completely guarantee that the Mavs are going to win Game 6. The Thunder did tie it up 2-2 in Dallas, so we'll see if they can once again do that here in Game 6, but these teams are both teams that have had their ups and downs throughout multiple of these games. Sometimes certain teams have it on or off. The only thing that has been an issue, that has been a pretty glaring issue, that I think may favor the Mavs in this matchup going into these last one, maybe two games, has been the rebounding disparities. I think that the Thunder and their rebounding struggles have been amplified in this series, and it has been difficult for them to get rebounds in this series, especially with the Derek Lively type, Daniel Gafford, like all these guys getting a ton of rebounds. PJ Washington, like you got these guys getting a ton of offensive rebounds, and it has been hurting the Thunder a lot. And I think that that's something that they need to look into going into next season. I'm surprised that they didn't try to fix that issue by the trade deadline, which I think that was the main thing that a lot of people were looking for the Thunder to try to remedy, was their rebounding errors. But they ended up getting Gordon Hayward, who, I mean, has been as none of a factor as you can be at this point. So we'll see what the Thunder can do in this Game 6, if they can force a Game 7 and potentially get to the Western Conference Finals. But if not, the Thunder have had an amazing season, and it only goes up from here. You got super young talent. I think they're the youngest team in the playoffs this season. The Magic were the second youngest team, so I think they were the youngest team in the playoffs this season, and they're the number 1 seed. And so they got nowhere to go but up. And you look at like Jay Williams' development here, and you're really excited about that. You're really excited about Chet Holmgren and his future seasons as well. And you're really excited about the trade pieces that you have with all of these first-round picks that you got going into the next few seasons. So it's definitely going to be a ride for the Thunder, and I expect them to really be a threat going forward in these next few seasons. And then finally, we have the Nuggets versus Timberwolves series, which in my last podcast I said was very dangerous for the Nuggets. I said that they were on the verge of being beaten here, of potentially getting out in 4 to 6 games. And boy, have they proved me wrong, man. Oh my goodness. I think Mike Malone was the one who said never count out the champs or whatever. Nikola Jokic. Like I'm just going to talk about not about the MVP right now, because this guy has proven, in my opinion, that this season and last season and all these and all his MVP years and whatever, he has proven time and time again that he is the best player in the world. I have been shocked watching him absolutely dismantle this number 1 defense in the league. This is the number 1 defense in the league. They have the defense player of the year. They have some of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league. And this guy, Nikola Jokic, has absolutely dismantled this team from the inside out. He had 35, 7, and 7 in game 4. Sorry, he had game 3. I believe he had 26, 24, 14, and 9, almost a triple double in game number 2 or game number 3, and then game 5. Game 5 was a monster game. You had Nikola Jokic go for 40 with 13 assists and 7 rebounds. Just a monster performance. And I mean, it has been a wonder to watch. I think that, I'm not gonna lie, I think that the Mike Conley being out in game 5 definitely hurt the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I mean, I don't even know if that would have been enough to really help the Timberwolves to a victory there, because Nikola Jokic was just on another level, and he has proven that he is the best player in the league, and dismantling this offense with his presence, with his passing, with his basketball IQ, his vision is just such a joy to watch, and he's an anomaly, man. And the Denver Nuggets, if they win this series, are by far my favorites to win the whole championship. Like I said, going into the playoffs, I was like, the Denver Nuggets are probably going to be my favorites to win it all, and they're still probably there. Like, they have proven everyone who doubted them wrong, including myself. And it is a wonder to watch this team play, watch Jokic do his thing, and it has been amazing. So amazing series all around. Very excited for game number 6 here, all these game 6s, and we will see how the NBA playoffs shape up going into the conference finals here in just a few days. All right, that is all I have for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, let me know once again how I can improve this podcast. Let me know in the YouTube comment section down below, or if you're watching this or listening to this on Spotify, let me know in the Q&A portion of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.